So it looks like Xbox Series X has power. Yes, you heard that right. Looks like developers are finally taking advantage of Xbox Series X capabilities. Let's look into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I would like to talk about Xbox Series X power, performance, capabilities, features. Now, I'm sure you remember when Xbox Series X first launched, there was quite a lot of talk about its power, raw power, GPU power, 12 teraflops, all these features and that kind of stuff, right? And we were all expecting Xbox Series X to also beat PlayStation 5 in terms of performance. That didn't really materialize, really. I mean, there were some games that did run better on Xbox, but a lot of these games actually run better on PlayStation. And but by the way, this is not really what I want to talk about today, even though there's certain games, there's actually more and more games that actually run better on Xbox Series X now, because developers finally figured out how to take advantage of some of these essential Xbox Series S and X features. So that's good news, of course. If you look at some of the latest releases, most games actually run better on Xbox Series X. Not all of them, because it's also a case of optimization. It all depends what kind of developer is making a game, who do they which platform they are focusing on, and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you heard about certain developers saying that they need more time to optimize for a game, although I'm sure you know which game I'm talking about. Wulong, I think it's called Wukong, sorry. But now there's some suggestions that it might be a business deal with Sony, not really an optimization issue. But anyway, this is not really what I want to talk about today. That may be another topic for another video. Today I want to focus on something totally different. I want to look at some games that released a while ago or recently, and we were complaining about performance or graphics or even bugs, and that now they are much better, right? And that just goes to show that Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 for that matter too, because I guess some of these things will apply to PlayStation 2. It just goes to show that with time, developers kind of learn, adapt, and they take a better advantage of these consoles. And it's actually interesting to see these days that there's a lot of games that are not always games as service. Sometimes they are, but there's also games like, I guess, that do have components, online components, and they are being supported for longer periods of time. Like there's more and more games like that. Like, look at Elden Ring, for example, and this is one of the titles I want to talk about today, or Lords of the Fallen, or Starfield even, right? Starfield was a locked 30 frames per second game. Now it's 60. It's not stable 60, there's frame drops and everything, but it's there. Look at even what modders were able to do with Xbox Series S version, right? They've changed a couple of things here and there. They've modded the game, and the game runs at 60 frames per second. So obviously that just goes to show that, if there's a will, there's a way. That's what I always like to say. Obviously, developers a lot of time faces budget limits, time limits, resources limits, as in not enough developers or not enough skills sometimes as well. Developers are kind of jumping from one project to the other, sometimes from one technology to the other. Sometimes they, like, good example would be Unreal Engine 4 and 5, like, even though there's certain similarities for sure, but there's certain things still that they need to adapt to. And I guess we're still going through this process, but there's actually more and more games showing the fruits of that labor and that learning process. So, I mean, let's start with Elden Ring, for example, right? I mentioned Starfield already. So the game was 30 at launch, now it's 60. And I'm sure that with further updates later on, that performance will just get better and better, because that's what usually happens. And I guess maybe that's why I kind of I'm not necessarily so big on physical media and everything, because we don't own anything anyway, even the physical media, as people say. I mean, we just buy a license on a disc. That's what we actually do. But the digital era, what it did is that it allows developers to constantly improve their games, and that's what we see with a lot of games. Starfield 30 at launch, 60 now. I'm sure it's going to only get better, right? Now, Elden Ring, this is another big example where the game was running like crap at launch, right? It was unoptimized. When did that launch? Like 2 years ago. And there was a number of different updates after the launch that fixed certain things, but not all of it. Obviously, at the time, that was one of the examples of games where a game would run better on PlayStation, right? I mean, Japanese developers, they tend to cater more to PlayStation side of things, if you know what I mean. So, I mean, this is not like an insult by any means. I'm just saying that it's just business reality, right? Xbox is almost non-existent in Japan, so Japanese developers kind of tend to cater more to PlayStation and Nintendo rather than Xbox, and they focus, and I guess they put more resources into optimizing for these platforms, if you know what I mean. But Elden Ring is actually another example where that game at launch was running not only pretty poor, but also much worse than on PlayStation 5. And now, actually, not only that game got a big update in terms of like performance, it runs much better on not only on Xbox but also on PlayStation. They improved that game on PlayStation. But even now, with that big update for Xbox recently and that DLC, I mean, Elden Ring actually runs a little bit better on Xbox than PlayStation, right? So it just goes to show that if developers are given enough time and resources, I guess, they can do it. Like, where's the will, there's the, if there's the will, there's a way, right? And resources, I guess. So that's another title. Now, there's also a couple of other titles here and there, like a small updates here and there. But genuinely speaking, it just goes to show that sometimes it's actually worth waiting. And I guess another big example, maybe the last one today, because I don't want to make that video too long, would be Lords of the Fallen. Now, this game not only was suffering from all kinds of performance issues, it had a lot of bugs too at launch. On Xbox, for example, that game had a massive kind of issue where it could like stall for like 5 seconds and it wouldn't move at all. So it would be 0 FPS basically for like 5-10 seconds. So we had a lot of starters and that kind of stuff in the game. The game was actually was running better on PlayStation. Actually, no, it did. Actually, that game, Lords of the Fallen, actually did run a little bit better on Xbox. like genuinely speaking performance-wise, but it had that stutter thing, right? It was less stuttery on PlayStation, right? So overall frame rate, I guess, was better on Xbox, but it was more stuttery on Xbox than on PlayStation, right? But now it improved as well. Textures actually improved, a lot of details improved. I think resolution improved a little bit too. So that's kind of cool as well. So, after a while you get to play these games and they're just much better, right? They get content added, they get a lot of bug fixes, which are annoying at launch. You get better performance. Sometimes you get better graphics. Okay, I promise, last one. Forza Motorsport. That game launched last year. Was it September, November? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. A few months ago. And at launch, it had, actually bugs, right? I mean, performance-wise, it ran very well, but it had like weird glitches and like graphics bugs, and it lacked content too, right? I mean, that Forza Motorsport is so much better right now because not only they fixed the HDR issue and the black level crashes. I think they call it right now, something like that. But now when I play Forza Motorsport, I feel like they improved the image quality too. So not necessarily the graphics per se. So the game looks pretty much the same in terms of level of details and everything, right? All the effects and everything. It just looks a little bit sharper in my opinion. I don't know whether they improved the upscaler or maybe they run the game higher internally. The internal resolution scaler runs at high resolution. I don't know, but I know for a fact that the game actually looks much better right now, right? Overall. So you just get much better experience, and you get all that extra content too. I remember similar things with like Forza Horizon 5 a few years ago as well. So even Halo Infinite right now is a much better game, not only content wise, because the multiplayer apparently is very good right now. I haven't really played that game for like a long time, but performance is much better, the image quality is much better, right? So I guess I could go on and on. I could actually find some other examples, but I think that we'll stop here with these 5-6 games. It's just all I'm trying to say is that when there's a game that just crashes and is not actually that good in terms of like performance, technically speaking, sometimes I like to leave it for a while and come back to that game a few months later and just play it like that. And I promise, last title, Immortals of Avium, another title that got massively improved recently with the latest patch. It runs much better on Xbox right now. Another title that actually runs better on Xbox than PlayStation, but I guess it ran better on Xbox even before, but so it doesn't really makes much of a difference. But there's a lot of games like that. So anyway, that's the last one, I promise. I'm sure if I dig a little bit longer in the internet, I would probably find way more games like that. But yeah, I guess these titles prove my point that I guess as the platform matures, as the developers get their head around different tricks and techniques and tech, generally speaking, they improve their game engines, and games just get better. So I'm actually really looking forward to seeing all these new games coming this year, next year. Looking forward to Star Wars now and Indiana Jones and all these games. About this year too, and Stalker. This one's going to be interesting too. So anyway, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.